We're about to head to the land down under. Thanks to Taz for retweeting this from AUS Gamers. They did an interview with several employees of Rockstar Games. The article is linked below in the description section. And we're not going to read over the entire article. We're going to focus mainly on the interview itself, but feel free, go back, click on the link below in the description section and read this article from AUS Gamers. And I do like the Seinfeld reference. I'm not going to spoil it. But yeah, I'm a fellow Seinfeld fan, and I did like that reference. And yeah, I also celebrate Festivus. Okay, so the interview was conducted between AUS Gamers, Steve Farrelly, he wrote the article, and he did the interview, with Rockstar employees. Tariq Ahmad, he is the Director of Design and Production. Katie Pika, the Design Director of World and Progression. And Scott Butchard, Design Director, World and Content. AUS Gamers, in maintaining the connection to the incredible game world of the base game, how do you iterate new content with meaning? Scott, when building out the world of Red Dead Online, we are always trying to bring across as much of the experience to play in Red Dead Redemption 2. So it starts with looking at ways we can expand on the idea of inhabiting your character with as much as possible. This time, that character is one you build out through your choices. That led us to the ideas of frontier pursuits and specialized roles of various types that would appeal to different kinds of players. Whether it's the action-packed missions like tracking down bounties or starting businesses like the trader role, to more passive roles, exploratory roles like the collector or naturalist. That's given us a massive range of options that we can continue to build upon over time, either through creating new types of roles or extending the existing ones like the trader roles leading to moonshiners. The Naturalist is a great example as it brought one of the most popular parts of Red Dead Redemption 2 into Red Dead Online through the addition of legendary animals. Not only does it open up new kinds of missions that emphasize the natural world, but great compliments to the existing roles. We also pay a lot of attention to what the community would like to see out in the game. So ultimately each edition should be a good combination of what we know they want and what we ourselves would like to play at home. And here I disagree. As I mentioned in my mistakes video a few days ago, I don't think that a role to lock the legendary animals behind was necessary. Just like in Red Dead Redemption 2, Arthur Morgan didn't have to go find Harriet in order to become a legendary animal hunter or a legendary fisherman. I'm just saying. AUS Gamers continues, does the game's dynamic ecology play havoc with creating new activities? And conversely, does the live game with player choice create headaches? If so, how do you approach that? See, Katie says, adding new content to a live game is always a challenge, especially one with a world as rich as the one that gives the player so many choices. So a lot of work goes into making sure every edition blends well into the world and existing content. Scott adds on to that, during the development, we spend a lot of time thinking about how this new content will fit into the world and about what knock-on effects these additions will be on the existing content. With the Naturalist, we wanted to make sure that it felt like a layer that connected well existing content and allow players to flow freely between the roles. You could be out hunting for a collectible, then decide to whip out your legendary animal map to go hunting, or make a kill and decide to take it to crypts instead for your trader business. Player choice is always a priority for us. It's a huge factor when designing those missions. We know that they're going to be replayed. We want players to feel in control and have these moments where the content feels fresh a second or third time. The problem with the Naturalist role is the fact that you already have a hunter role where you go out hunting and you take either whatever you hunted to the local butcher, or you take it to crypts for the trader role. But whenever you have the Naturalist role in combination with the trader role, they contradict each other because you're out there trying to fill up the materials for crypts to make more product for you to sell. But when you're out there hunting for deer or rabbits or whatnot for him, it's ticking off Harriet. And when you have to go to Harriet to do like sedatives for daily challenges or do animal sighting missions, she's going to spray you and you're not going to be able to interact with her for like 5 minutes. So it's like a damned if you do, damned if you don't scenario. So they don't exactly complement each other very well. And That's a problem that a lot of players have and have been frustrated about. It's one thing if you kill an animal near Harriet's, one of her locations, and you're in close proximity to her, but when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you shoot a rabbit or a goat or a deer or a pronghorn or a predator in self-defense like a wolf or a bear or a cougar, and she's mad at you even though she's nowhere near you, it just seems a little weird. Continuing with the interview from AUS Gamers, clearly players in the community wind up having a huge say in functioning online lives. What's the game to service community experience like? Hamad says this is a huge priority for us, listening very carefully to how our community is responding to the content and features in each update and how they are engaging with it. We have feedback pages that we encourage players to use to let us know directly how they feel about the game. And we're often jumping into live sessions around the new update to get a sense of how players are responding in real time. We have a passionate, dedicated, vocal community, and what they have to say really helps. It shapes the important areas in each update to help the community and continue growing and creating their own stories and experiences with the content, roles, and features available. AUS Gamers, what's the weirdest role you've seen the community member take up, see that you guys have created? Let's see, Katie says, it's not a role specifically, but I think the group of players that decided to carry their stew from one side of the map to the other stood out for you. Doesn't really answer the question, but okay. Scott, before we created the roles, the emergence of a Fight Club subculture was a very cool thing to me. It wasn't so much weird as a surprise. It really showed that players were into social vibe in a controlled way, and that's something we'd like to acknowledge in the future. So it's quite possible for those of you that like getting on top of roofs and having your own fight clubs, there may eventually be a quote-unquote fight club in Red Dead Online somewhere down the road, which could be quite interesting. AUS Gamers, how do you plan to maintain the in-game economy without it being tired? Katie says, we'd like to offer incentives to keep players both existing and new content. This includes adding new opportunities or expanding old ones, including new items, see to covet, or new ways to earn cash and gold. The aim to strike a balance between giving the player engaging short-term and long-term goals. The catalog passes, the regular pass, the outlaw pass, allow us to have a wide variety of desirable items and bonuses to complement any role-specific content or general shop items. Okay, so here's one of the issues that we talked about a few days ago, and a lot of issues I brought up in my mistakes video, is the fact that as of right now, there isn't really much when it comes to goals and things to purchase for the veteran player that's been playing the game since the beta, that's maxed out all the roles, that has plenty of money from the dailies and plenty of cash. There is nothing to aspire towards at the moment. There are currently no properties in the game. It's been a while since they've added some new horses, and I really feel like that this is something that Rockstar needs to improve upon with Red Dead Online, is to give us a reason to spend our gold, a reason to spend our cash. At the moment, there really isn't much for veteran players. New players, of course, coming into the wide open world of Red Dead Online, you got a whole bunch of roles to play and choose from. You got a lot to do, but eventually, unfortunately, you're going to end up in the same spot that a lot of the veteran players are in right now. Hopefully, rumor mill has it. Actually, it's not really a rumor because Rockstar technically confirmed it last week that a title update is coming to Red Dead Online. Hopefully, within a few weeks from now. We can only hope. All right, so continuing, AUS Gamers says, what learnings have you taken from GTA Online that maybe you didn't expect to translate to Red Dead Online? Scott responds, the GTA Online and Red Dead Online are very different worlds. There aren't too many specifics that have translated across. It's more the lessons we have learned from GTA Online that we've applied to the process of developing Red Dead Online as it evolves. For example, there's definitely been a shift over the years in GTA Online to making content more accessible by allowing it to be played and completed solo or optional with 1 to 4 players. We've carried that across to Red Dead Online, respecting players who work together in posses, but also allowing players to treat the online same space as a single-player game, and becoming a lone wolf, a player who wants to traverse the world and occasionally work with others, but on their own terms. We also have been influenced by GTA Online's role-playing communities and the desire to really embody the type of character as much as possible. With the roles in Red Dead Online, We wanted to give players more of that experience, and we hope that it shows. And I've mentioned some of my criticisms. You can go back and watch that in my mistakes video, where I feel like there's some things that they could have brought over from GT Online, and it would have worked perfectly fine in Red Dead Online, but they chose to go some different routes instead of different lobby types. One fat big lobby type for better or worse for everybody, and the persistent posse system I'm not really a fan of. Just a few examples that I cited. But, I mean, I get it. I completely agree. These are two completely different games, Red Dead Online and GT Online. But they're both made by Rockstar, and they're both built on the Rage engine with very, very similar tools. So there's obviously similarities between both online games. At the same time, I'm glad that they're listening to the community. Hopefully they are continuing to do so. And they're working behind the scenes to improve the game, improve the roles, and make it more fun down the road. And maybe, just maybe, the next role will be one of the best, most exciting, fun roles to date. I hope so. AUS Gamers says it's arguable that Red Dead as a franchise requires more context from history than GTA. Can you speak on how you approach that? So this will be an interesting one. From Hamad, he says a huge amount of historical research was done for both Red Dead Redemption and Red Dead Redemption 2. And Red Dead Online has been able to make us every aspect of it as we build out the world. Everything is considered as much as possible, how people in the era would speak, the clothing, weaponry, every facet of the living world around our content. That being said, we're not trying to be completely historically accurate. This is a fictional story set in a fictional version of the Old West. So that leaves them some leeway down the road to, I guess, slowly mosey away from the quote-unquote realism. So don't be surprised if eventually you start seeing more interesting things added to Red Dead Online. Some of the things that we would like to see, like the Horses of the Apocalypse, like a new Undead Overrun maybe for next Halloween. That'd be cool. Unicorn, a Pegasus. Some people don't want to see any of that. I understand. We all have our opinions about that hot topic. But don't be surprised if they continue adding content to Red Dead Online. Eventually, yeah, there's going to be points where the realism starts to go out the door, and things are, as Hamad said, are not going to be historically accurate. Case in point, there's a concern that they may eventually add the 1899 semi-auto pistol from story mode to online, and that's a concern to a lot of us, but it doesn't mean that it's going to stop them from doing so. I think that, the semi-auto shotgun is also technically not existing in this time period at the moment. It's like a few years off from actually becoming a thing. I could be wrong about that. At least it's one of the firearms currently in Red Dead Online that technically shouldn't exist in 1898. Yes, that's the year. AUS Gamers continues. Conversely, there's some crazy undead nightmare level ideas still imprinted on the few whiteboards across the offices. Oh, now we're getting to something interesting. There are always a ton of ideas that never get used. Hopefully one day we will find a way to use the best ones. If you're into more supernatural gameplay of the world of Red Dead, we've been putting a ton of work into our upcoming Halloween update for Red Dead Online. A ton of work. You reskinned enemy NPCs and made them look like zombies. They're not zombies, Hamad. Zombies go back to Undead Nightmare like AUS Gamers mentioned. I mean, you had 4 different types of zombies, undead, that you could have probably put into Red Dead Online and create survival modes across the map, similar to Undead Overrun, yes. What was wrong with bringing back Undead Overrun from Red Dead Redemption multiplayer, which my friend Void Amy, she was streaming over the weekend, and making that a mode in Red Dead Online. Most of the players didn't really care for Dead of Night. It was kind of weird. It was like a PvE, PvP hybrid. And once again, the dead were not the undead. They were just NPCs, run-of-the-mill enemy NPCs with guns and bows and arrows that you could shoot and kill without shooting them in the head. You could shoot them here, you could even shoot them in the leg, and they would die. Undead, you have to actually shoot in the head to kill, just like in Undead Nightmare and Undead Overrun. So, yeah, most of us weren't really a fan of that mode. And obviously, if you go by this response, this interview was conducted prior to Halloween. AUS Gamer, finally, your favorite activity in the game. What would you like to incorporate as a future rewardable activity? Katie says, I like doing a mix of activities, dipping in and out every chance as the opportunities present themselves. going forward. I'd love to delve more into classic areas of the West now that we have a good foundation. Scott says, I'm a big fan of collections. I just love it. I could be out doing a bounty or hunting some elk and decide to pop the old metal detector and I get a hit. Feels really satisfying gathering this stuff for Madame Nazar. See, she's a great character too. I agree. I like Madame Nazar. I agree with Katie. More traditional gunslinger style content would be cool to provide that authentic Wild West vibe, but I'm also a big fan of fishing in the game and feel that there could be a scope to expand that in the same way that we did with hunting. By opening up these specialist roles, we've created multiple pathways for the game to go forward from here with something for everyone. I feel like they're hinting towards a future angler role. That's something we have speculated for a while now with the introduction of legendary fish and that one character you run across in Red Dead Redemption 2 that's obsessed with fishing. So it's very possible that there will be an angler role somewhere down the road. I hope it's not anytime soon, because I think that the next role needs to have a Wild West action-packed feel and vibe to it, like a lawman role, an outlaw role, or maybe they package that together like a duality, the honorable lawman or the dishonorable lawman or the honorable outlaw or the dishonorable outlaw, where you could go either way and play both sides. I think that would make more sense for the next role. There's rumors that we're getting a new role with the next update. There's also data out there with the possibility of us getting properties finally. So we'll see what we get in the hopefully near future when it comes to the next title update to Red Dead Online. For the most part, this interview conducted by Steve was pretty good. I thought he did a good job. I feel like the answers that the developers over at Rockstar Games gave were kind of vague. And I wish that there was a little more to it, but this is Rockstar we're talking about. They don't exactly give out a lot of information. Anytime that somebody's able to get an interview with them, like AUS Gamers managed to do so, yeah, a lot of times they're going to go over a lot of stuff that most of us are aware of already. And I hope that the roles get better. I hope that the next update is awesome. And I do feel like that there is an issue with the economy, as I've pointed out already. And there were some things I obviously disagreed with the developers of. Maybe there's still room for improvement going forward, and I hope that they are still listening to the community. I hope that they're sincere about that. I want the roles to be a success, and there's some roles I like. But when you have roles that, like I mentioned earlier, contradict themselves and have a conflict, like the naturalist role versus the trader role, then you find it at odds, because you got to go out there and hunt to get materials for crypts, but you can't do that because you're going to piss off Harriet, even though Harriet's nowhere near you. But I digress. So anyways, that is, I guess you could say, a small taste of what their plan is for Red Dead Online going forward. More roles, and hopefully they're going to add more items, hopefully more horses. I mean, there's horses in story mode they could add. They don't have to go mythical if they choose not to. If they don't want to bring on the horses of the apocalypse or unicorns or Pegasus, they could at least keep it realistic, and there's still options, as we've talked about in previous videos. At the very least, there's a variety of horses currently in Red Dead Redemption 2 that they could move over to Red Dead Online for us to purchase, like the Rose Gray Arabian, the Brindle Arabian, the few spots Appaloosa. There's also variations of unique horses from the Vanderling gang that they could do. A horse that looks like Baylock, aka the Dark Horse, as well as the Count, the albino Arabian that Dutch happens to have. A few more examples as well I would cite, but I think you get the idea. The game does need more content, more goals, more things for us to aspire towards, like they were talking about, long-term and short-term as well. And maybe the next update will do that with various properties to purchase, as well as more items in the game. I really hope that that's the case. I hope that their roles continue to improve. And I want nothing more than for Red Dead Online's issues to be fixed, and for the game to run as smoothly as possible, for people to have a great, enjoyable experience, and to have awesome, exciting, riveting Wild West roles to play. Lawman, outlaw, prospector, etc. And I'm totally fine with more passive roles, like an angler role. That's fine, but you got to mix those in properly. You can't just do like passive, passive, passive role back to back. You have to do like passive, action-packed, you kind of have to mix and match it. And similar to Frontier Pursuits, as I stated a few days ago, and I've mentioned this a few times, I think their strategy with Frontier Pursuits worked because they added 3 roles at the same time. So you had plenty of content at that time to choose from. You could focus on one, you could focus on all 3. And it took a quick minute to get all 3 of those roles maxed out. When you just have one role by itself, it doesn't take as long. And the problem is when that role isn't as interesting, you may get around to it eventually simply out of boredom because you have enough gold to buy the role and you got nothing else going on. So you're like, okay, fine, I'll do the Moonshiner role. Okay, fine, I'll do the Naturalist role. Okay, fine, I would like to go after some legendary animals. Even though, once again, I don't feel like it was necessary to lock the legendary animals behind a role. But I think that's just the way it's going to be going forward. For example, as I pointed out a moment ago, legendary fish. They're probably going to add legendary fish with an angler role. And you'll have to be an angler in order to go after the legendary fish. Whether or not it ends up being worth it remains to be seen. Article, once again, from Steve Fairley of AUS Gamers. Link below in the description section. And I thought he did a good job. My criticism is not with him, by the way. So, Steve, nothing but love for you. Fellow Seinfeld fan, it's all good. I just would like to see them be a little bit more open and more specific. I want them to come out, and I want somebody to interview them that actually asks them harder questions. Because these were kind of softball questions. And I would like for them to actually answer questions that a lot of the community has, that we have brought up time and time again. Why don't we have different lobby types? Why do you have the persistent posse system the way that it is? I'm not going to cite every single question that we have, but I think most of you get that point. So I feel like that they're never going to actually do like an AMA like that. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is, not just for Rockstar Games, but a lot of these developers are that way as well. I'm not asking for them to answer like nasty, mean questions like, why are you guys mean and evil? No, just basic, concerns and issues that a lot of us have with Red Dead Online. If you care about realism, then why do you have explosive incendiary rounds in a supposed realism game? There's one question, along with the different lobby types. Why can't we actually sell our horses? Why can't we make money, at least a few bucks, off of our horses, or at the very least some sort of 30-40% benefit coupon, instead of discarding a horse that we spent gold or money on and getting nothing out of it just because we ran out of stall space? I have a few more of those I could throw in there, but I digress. Anyways, your thoughts, your views, and opinions regarding this article from AUS Gamers. And if you have any hard-hitting questions to Rockstar Games, something you would like to ask these developers, they may never answer it, but what is a question or a few questions that you would like to ask them if hypothetically you were given a chance to interview anyone at Rockstar Games in charge of the developing of Red Dead Online? Who knows? Maybe I'll compile the list together and I'll email it to Rockstar Games. I'll try to reach to somebody. I'm sure I'll hear back from nobody, but I'll try. I will take your list and I will pass it to Rockstar Games, and maybe they'll respond, maybe they won't, but it never hurts to try. Your questions to Rockstar Games concerning Red Dead Online, as always, welcome below in the comments section.